Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a meticulously documented, utterly chilling sequence of events from Highway 44. And look, this isn't just a spooky campfire tale. It's a fascinating look into isolation, raw fear, and a timeline of events that completely defies logical explanation. We're going to map out exactly what happened to a truck driver named Kamlesh on a night that totally shattered his reality.
So I want you to put yourself directly in the driver's seat for a second. Really imagine this. What would you do? You are utterly alone, miles from civilization, and suddenly the fundamental laws of geography and even life and death just stop applying to you. It's an absolutely terrifying scenario, right? And analyzing how Kamlesh navigated it gives us some incredible insight into the human survival instinct when you're faced with the literal impossible.
To really grasp this, we've got to set the scene. It's past midnight on Highway 44. Try to feel that intense sensory isolation Kamlesh was dealing with. There's nothing around, just the heavy, droning roar of his truck's engine, the hum of worn-out tires gripping cracked, wet asphalt, and this endlessly dark forest pressing in on both sides of the road. No streetlights, no towns, no signs of life anywhere. Just pure, exhausting monotony cutting straight through the wilderness. His eyes are burning. He's operating on pure fumes. And that exhaustion perfectly sets up the exact moment his psychological break happens. Out of absolutely nowhere, caught right in the bright glare of his headlights, a white figure is just standing there, motionless, middle of the road. Kamlesh slams on the brakes. The truck screeches violently, stopping just feet away. But when he looks through the windshield, the road is completely empty. No figure, nothing. Sweating, terrified, and convinced his deeply fatigued mind is just playing tricks on him, he forces himself to step out of the safety of the cabin just to get some fresh air. He steps out into the dark. The silence of the forest is absolute. And then... "Brother, please wait." Now, what's really interesting here is the immediate clash of perspectives. Kamlesh spins around and sees the blurry outline of a woman standing in the red glow of his taillights. His brain, deeply rooted in local folklore, instantly assumes this is a demonic entity. He actually shouts at her to stay back, thinking she's one of those spirits with backward feet that mimic humans to trap you. But the woman completely disarms him. She gives this soft, painful little laugh. She points out that she's just a totally exhausted woman in a cheap white cotton sari, just trying to get home to her kids. She asks, "Would a ghost speak to you so politely?" And suddenly, the disarming power of human empathy starts to override his primal panic. Even with that empathy, though, Kamlesh isn't taking any chances. He establishes a hard, physical boundary. He agrees to help her, but the rule is absolute. She has to ride in the back, in the cargo area under the tarp. Definitely not in the cabin with him. She agrees, her eyes catching the light strangely in the dark, and she walks to the back. And then comes the confirmation. Knock. Knock. A soft, metallic tap from the back of the truck. Kamlesh immediately locks his cabin doors. He is now physically tethered to this entity rolling through the dark. But almost instantly, things start going off the rails. The environmental clues escalate quickly, proving something deeply unnatural is happening here. First off, the very physics of the vehicle seem to change. The truck suddenly feels immensely heavier, like it's physically dragging on the asphalt. Seeking some kind of comfort, Kamlesh clicks on the radio, but nothing. Just the hiss of dead static. And then, cutting right through that white noise, is a sound that just sends ice down his spine. A painful, haunting crying echoing from the cargo area. The isolation is definitely broken, but it's been replaced by something far worse. Unable to just sit there and listen to that haunting sound, Kamlesh nervously slides open the little rear window and asks her what's wrong. The crying abruptly stops, and she delivers this completely devastating backstory. She tells him that doctors had informed her husband she could never have children. Because of that, he treated her like she was worthless, beating her daily, telling her a woman who can't give birth doesn't deserve a place in the world. Hearing this, Kamlesh's fear is entirely replaced by deep, genuine sympathy. He reassures her, telling her that her worth isn't decided by children. And for a moment, the crying slows down. The silence returns. Everything kind of feels normal. But that normalcy shatters in a split second. "Stop the truck!" The woman screams with such terrifying intensity that Kamlesh narrowly swerves off the road. He slams the brakes. She calmly tells him her village is right here. But when Kamlesh looks out, there is literally nothing. No lights, no houses, just dense, dark forest. She tells him the place is called Sati Valley, steps out into the freezing air, and within seconds, she just completely dissolves into the thick fog. Honestly, the sudden return to absolute dead silence is almost more terrifying than the screaming. Let's track how this builds, because this is the exact moment the laws of reality just break down completely. Kamlesh drives away, shaken up but incredibly relieved it's over. But then, his headlights sweep across a broken road sign on the shoulder. It says Sachi Valley. His blood runs completely cold. He knows for a fact he just left this place miles back. He floors it, desperate to put distance between himself and whatever is in that forest. But moments later, the exact same sign appears in the headlights again, Sachi Valley. He is literally trapped in an inescapable spatial loop. Pure panic totally consumes him now. He presses his foot down hard. The speedometer starts climbing. 80 kilometers an hour. He is desperately trying to outrun the haunted geography of this forest, his breathing heavy and ragged in the pitch-black cabin. The truck is moving way too fast for these terrible road conditions. He hits 90 kilometers an hour. The massive vehicle is bouncing violently against the cracked, wet asphalt. The engine is absolutely roaring, but no matter how fast he goes, he can't escape the trees. And then, impossibly, the sign appears again. Saudi Valley. 100 kilometers an hour. Peak, absolute terror sets in. He violently jerks the steering wheel, just trying to avoid looking at the sign. But between the slick, wet road and the immense speed, it's just too much. The heavy truck completely loses traction. The climax of the loop is visceral and brutal. The truck slams head-on into a massive rock. Metal twists and groans, glass explodes inward, and thick black smoke starts pouring from the crushed engine block. Kamlesh is thrown out onto the wet asphalt, bleeding, battered, and barely conscious. He's desperately waving at passing vehicles for help, but the nightmare isn't over. Truck drivers are just blasting their horns and speeding past, completely ignoring him, like he literally doesn't exist. So he's shaking in the dark, surrounded by the smoking wreckage of his livelihood, and Kamlesh somehow manages to pull out his phone and call his boss. He babbles out the whole story, the woman, the repeating road, the crash. And his boss doesn't laugh it off or dismiss it. Instead, he says something incredibly strange. He demands that Kamlesh take pictures of the wrecked truck and send them to him immediately, right that second. Kamlesh does it, snapping photos blindly into the dark and hitting send. Minutes later, the phone rings. It's his boss, and his voice is just trembling with absolute terror. He issues a strict, rigid survival protocol. Step 1, forget the truck completely. Step 2, run, right now. Step 3, and no matter what happens, if you hear someone calling your name or crying behind you, do not look back. Kamlesh just runs blindly through the darkness until he finally, miraculously reaches a neighboring village. Now you'd think surviving the night was the end of the ordeal, right? Far from it. 2 days later, battered but alive, Kamlesh walks into his boss's office to deal with the fallout of the wrecked truck. But his boss isn't angry about the vehicle. Without saying a word, he slowly slides the photograph Kamlesh took that night across the desk. Kamlesh looks down at the image of his ruined truck and completely freezes in pure horror. Because the photographic evidence from the source material is deeply, deeply disturbing. Remember the timeline we mapped out earlier? Remember that metallic tap on the back of the truck? Well, the photo proves she was never in the cargo area. Sitting perfectly upright inside the wrecked truck's passenger seat is the exact same woman. But now, her face is clearly visible. She's staring right through the shattered glass, smiling directly at the camera. In her eyes are completely black. She wasn't in the back. She was sitting right beside him the entire time. Kamlesh never traveled that highway again. But the source material notes that even today, when driving down lonely roads, he still feels this icy presence right beside him in the cab. Which brings us to our final question for this explainer. Did Kamlesh truly escape Sachi Valley that night? Or did something latch onto him and follow him home? Because as this deeply unsettling case study shows us, on some cursed roads, not every traveler you meet is human. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and we'll see you in the next explainer.